What is up, guys? I'm the mechanic on Rogue, and today I'm back to working on my car. Changing oil is probably one of the most common subjects I get asked about by people looking to learn more about their cars. And it just so happens my car is due for an oil change. So in this video, I'm going to be going through what I do to change the oil and filter on my 2016 Volkswagen Golf. Along the way, I'm going to touch on the different types of oil and filters available for these services. Before I get started, as always, I want to remind you that while I might be a mechanic, that doesn't mean that I necessarily know what's going on with your specific vehicle. This information may not be applicable to your specific vehicle or your specific situation. This video is made only for general educational purposes, and I'm not guaranteeing anything in this video. Use this information at your own risk and always consult with a local, professional mechanic before you do any work to your own vehicle. Be sure to read my full disclaimer down in the description. And now, on to the job. Because I'm working with engine oil, before I pull the car into the garage, I want to put down some sheets of cardboard. That way, if I do spill any oil, it doesn't get on the concrete. Next, I'm going to pull my car in and set up the front end on jack stands. The reason why I'm setting the car up on jack stands is because my car is really low to the ground and I can't fit underneath it without the jack stands. I've already talked about how I put my car on stands in a previous video. If you haven't seen it before, I got the link down in the description, and I've also got it in the banner just overhead. So go ahead and check that out. Now that my car is all set up, let's talk briefly about the tools and materials that I used. For tools, I used a large flathead screwdriver, a 1/2 inch 32mm deep socket, a 1/2 inch to 3/8 adapter, a 3/8 ratchet. I also made sure I had an oil catch pan, a funnel, some brake clean, and some rags. For oil, I used 6 liters of 5W40 engine oil with a VW 502 spec rating. This brings me to an important point. Not all engine oils are created equally. There's tons of different engine oils out there, and they're all made to function differently. To adequately cover the different types of engine oils and what they do, I would probably need another video. Fortunately for today, I don't need to know everything about engine oil, I just need to know what my car needs. And I can find that in the owner's manual. In specifications, I can find the recommended viscosity and rating for the engine oil as well as the required amount. Always make sure the oil that gets into the engine is what the OEM recommends or a reliable equivalent. I've seen people destroy their engines by putting in the wrong type of oil. For the oil filter, I'm using an OEM filter. A quick word on filters. There's a lot of discount brand oil filters out there, and while they might be cheaper than the OEM filters, they may not necessarily be as good as them. Large reason as to why they can offer a cheaper filter is because the filters are not made to the same quality that the OEM recommends. For my Golf, the VW 502 spec oil is a fairly high performance oil, and I want to make sure I have a filter that can hold up just as long as the oil can. I don't want it to fall apart or break down while my car is running, because that's going to cause a lot more problems. I've seen it happen before, and that's why I go with the OEM filter. Alright, my car's set up, my tools are out, and I have my new engine oil and filter. Let's get to changing this oil. First, I take off my oil fill cap located on top of the engine. I do this to make sure the cap is not stuck, and it allows air into the engine to displace the oil I will be draining out shortly. I'll set the fill cap to the side. Next, I'll start draining my engine oil. I position my oil catch bin underneath my drain plug. Now here's something that I don't see on most cars. My oil pan is plastic, and all I need is a screwdriver to remove the also plastic drain plug. Usually oil pans and drain plugs are metal. This design is convenient, but I don't like it from a durability standpoint. Anyhow, moving on. While the oil is draining, I'll change my oil filter. My filter is a cartridge style filter. Located on top of the engine, it is important to change this type of filter while the oil is draining, because there's about 1/2 liter of oil in the filter housing that gets released to the oil pan when I pull the oil filter out. I'll take my 32mm socket and 3/8 ratchet and use it to loosen the oil filter housing cap. After, I'll remove the cap and the filter. And there's that ½ liter of oil I was talking about. There's a sealing ring on the cap that needs to be replaced. A new one is included with my new filter. Always make sure you replace this, as reused ones tend to leak. To change it, I put a rag over my hand and pinch the old O-ring. With my other hand, I'll grab the slack that's created and remove the O-ring the rest of the way. Before installing the new O-ring, to avoid tearing it when I reinstall the cap, I lubricate it with some of the old engine oil. Finally, while installing the new O-ring on the cap, I make sure it is completely seated in its landing and not hanging on the cap threads like this one is. If it were on the cap threads, the O-ring would tear and leak oil everywhere. Now that I know the O-ring is good to go, I install my new filter and reinstall my cap. I'll tighten it down until I can see the cap flange bottomed out and snug. By now, my oil should be finished draining and I can reinstall the drain plug as well. It just clips back into place. Alright, I'm now ready to fill this engine up with my new oil. To try and avoid mess, I set up this oil funnel. However, in retrospect, it took way longer to fill and I probably will not do this again. With the new oil in the engine, I can reinstall the fill cap and I'm ready to start her up. I'll let it run for a couple minutes to make sure there's no leaks from the filter cap or drain plug. Everything's looking good for me. Time to take the car off the jacks and verify my oil level is good. It's important to mention that if my car is not on a level surface when I'm verifying my oil level, I could get an incorrect reading. That's why I take it off the jacks before I check the oil level. I also don't take my first reading from the oil dipstick when I pull it out. The engine's been running and it's splashed oil all over it, so you're not going to get a good reading from that. I wipe it off, re-dip it, and then take my reading. And there's my final reading. It's right up to the max line, which is perfect. Now that my oil change is finished, I gotta do something about the old oil and filter. For me, I have a local shop that takes my old oil and recycles it. If I do not have that option, my local city landfill will accept those materials as well. Either way, it's important that I dispose of my old engine oil and filter in an environmentally safe and responsible way, following appropriate disposal practices and regulations. And now I'm done. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. I hope it was informative and useful to all of you. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what you liked about this video, and a thumbs up is always appreciated. And be sure to subscribe for more great content. If you want to help support this channel and the videos that I make, you can follow the link in the description and buy me a coffee. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day. MGR signing out.